Hi, this is Seth Kahn. Welcome to my podcast. I am so pleased today to have a longtime friend, colleague, and collaborator, Andrew Kutt. He is the founder and the chairman of the board of the Oneness-Family Montessori School, where both of my children spent time, critical years, and I'm excited to have him here. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much, Seth. I'm really happy we could work this out for me to be here today.
Me too. You are on my list of people who are changing the world for the better. I want to talk about your vision and what has been able to transpire in the decades since you founded the Oneness Family Montessori School. But why don't we go back in time, like get out the big time clock and reel back year after year, decade after decade? And how did you get started on this path?
Yes, well, I never know exactly when to start, but let's say we'll start when I was in graduate school at the University of North Carolina. By that point, I'd already lived 3 years in Europe and traveled a lot as a young man and explored the world. And I went to UNC to study world literature. However, after a couple of years, I felt a little disillusioned with academia. It wasn't quite real world enough for me, and I was looking for some way to contribute. My heroes growing up were Martin Luther King Jr. and Bobby Kennedy. And I felt I really, I want to do something with my life to make a contribution to the world. So around that same time, I started studying meditation and yoga quite seriously. And I ended up meeting a spiritual teacher named Sri Chinmoy and started studying meditation with him. And I found his path to be very inspiring because of its kind of universality, the idea that we should try to develop ourselves spiritually, intellectually, emotionally, artistically, and athletically, and so on. And there's something about that really resonated with me. So I got quite inspired. And as I was trying to think about what to do with my life, I had friends that were joining the Peace Corps. I actually filled out an application for the Peace Corps. I thought about maybe going to the United Nations and starting a career there. I knew some people that were doing that. And so I wrote my new meditation teacher a letter and said, "What should I do?" And apparently I wasn't there, but apparently he got my letter and he opened it and he did a meditation. And then he sent a response, which basically was, "For you, I see a future in education. I think you'd be well suited to serve children, and maybe one day you could start a school."
Hmm.
And that of course came really out of the blue and was really quite quite something to absorb. But I got very inspired by that idea, the kernel of that idea. So I started thinking, well, okay, I don't have any experience really with children. I've taught at college, I've taught some at high school. What would I do? How would I begin? So this was before the internet, before computers. Somehow I ended up contacting Tim Selden, who was and still is a very renowned Montessori educator. And we ended up talking on the phone for a long time. And by the end of that phone call, he had inspired me to think about starting a career in Montessori education. So I went up to Washington D.C. to start a training in Montessori the summer of 1985. And shortly thereafter, Tim called me into his office and offered me my first job. So I went back to Carolina, packed up all my stuff, and which was, my basketball, my guitar. I had a '69 Chevy with no air conditioning and drove it all the way up to DC and started a new life as a Montessori teacher. And so I worked with Tim at the Barry School for 3 years. And then in the 1980, 87, 88 school year, I remembered the words of my teacher, that maybe one day I could start a school. And this welled up inside of me. And so I felt, okay, maybe this is the time for me to really try to do that. So I walked into Tim's office in January 1988 and told him I'd like to start my own school. And to his credit, Tim was completely supportive and has been since that time. And, uh, and so from that point onward, I started going through the process of starting a school, which is no easy task in the state of Maryland because there's all kinds of stuff that you have to do to make that happen, which is a whole other story. But in September 1988, we opened the doors of Oneness-Family Montessori School to 7 students, and it's been an incredible journey since then. It's a 37-year journey, and today we have alumni students, including your children, Seth, all around the world. We have 5 alumni students on our board of trustees. We have 2 other alumni students that serve in our administration, and I think we have a record number of alumni this year sending their own children back to the school.
Wow.
And so we'll be planning now for our 40th anniversary. But I could not have imagined a more fulfilling and wonderful life, to be honest. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, thank you. That's a lot of great context. And one of the things that I'm really interested in your work, Andrew, is the vision and the realization of the vision. I mean, it's so much work to start a school. There's fundraising, there's logistics, you got to find a location, you got to, get all the supplies, you got to hire the teachers. There's all of that stuff that goes with any new private school in the state of Maryland. But one of the things that doesn't go with any new school is the vision that you brought to it. And I know from my studies that since the dawn of time, most human groups have not treated each other kindly. There's been wars, there's been domination. It's only in the last couple hundred years, really, that human beings have really started to think about tolerance and cooperation. But your school takes that to a whole different level. The Oneness-Family School's vision is founded on conflict resolution and cooperation and peace. Talk a little bit about that.
So at that time when I decided to go for it and start the school, I also started meditating deeply and thinking about what the school's core essence would be. And what I realized is that we had kind of lost our way to some degree in terms of modern education, because throughout history, from ancient times all the way through the Middle Ages and through the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, education was about who you wanted to be as a person. What kind of character do you want to become? How do you want to live your life? And in modern times, it's kind of skewed toward what do I want to do? What do I want to do with my life? What kind of job do I want to get? What kind of salary will I earn, et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to go back to the original roots of what education was all about, and I came up with this concept of a curriculum that would be broken into 3 parts. One would be, of course, an academic portion, but it would be academics that would be studied in an interwoven web of understanding of how we look at the world and how we look at the universe. And this was a part of Maria Montessori's approach to education, that we study the whole and how we fit into it. So that was what I called academy. The second part of the curriculum, though, was really the key, and that's what I came to call self-discovery. Self-discovery is that age-old quest for who you want to be as a person. Who are you really? Why are you on the earth? What does it mean to live this life? And that portion of the curriculum comprises, as you mentioned, conflict resolution, but it also comprises studying virtues like honesty and gratitude. It involves mindfulness or meditation or yoga, ways to tap into your inner self. It includes physical fitness and mind-body health and nutrition. It also includes the arts, because what I realized is, what really is the purpose of art and music and theater? Well, the purpose, first and foremost, is to explore yourself, connect with others, and to express yourself. So all of these things came to be a part of the self-discovery aspect. And as I look at other school models, excluding Montessori, because Montessori schools have a unique way of approaching this, but many schools, the self-discovery aspect is very limited in how it is addressed. And what I mean by that is that anything approaching like an exploration of who you are and who you want to be, is kind of left to like parochial or religious schools, or at least it's left until later in high school and college when you can explore those things. But really, these are such core questions. They should start in preschool. And not that we're answering them, but we're honoring, right? When a child says, "How big is the universe?" Our answer doesn't have to be, "Oh, well, you know, let me give you some numbers on that, or let me give you some history of the science on that." For a 4 or 5-year-old, it's enough to say, that is an amazing question. And that is a question that's been asked since time immemorial, how big the universe is and how we got here and so on. So the self-discovery aspect became and remains a very core aspect, and it's the kind of aspect you were alluding to. And finally, the third aspect of the curriculum was what we came to call manifestation, which is a bit of an abstract term, but I couldn't find a better term to encapsulate what happens when you learn about the whole universe and the world in academy, and then you learn about who you are and who you want to be in self-discovery. What do you do with that? Well, what you do is what you want to pursue. That could take many different forms, from community service to going out into the world and getting to know your community. It could involve being a festival. It could a sphere. It could be a performance. You get where I'm coming from. It's all about what you want to do, and how you want to manifest these skills and these aptitudes that you're gaining. And the key factor there is it's not something we put upon students. We really, at that point, encourage them to to explore and to pursue the kinds of things that really are important to them, and that is something that you'll find it at all Montessori schools. This idea of tapping into the agency and the zeal that's innate in every human being. So this, in a nutshell, it was at the core of the school, and I'm very proud that after 37 years, we've retained this kind of triad of elements, because it's so easy, Seth, to have this be squeezed out. There's so many stresses on parents about test scores and about college entrances and what you're going to do and what kind of job you're going to get. Well, these are very difficult times more than ever with what's happening in the world. And so it adds to the stress. And so it could be very tempting to just cut out self-discovery and put more hours in the curriculum for grinding through math algorithms and whatnot. So we've had to really be tenacious to hold on to the core elements of what the school is all about. And I think that the graduates that have gone through the program, which now number in the hundreds, are testaments. They're the best testaments to the vision that one could ever have.
One of the things that strikes me as I listen to you, Andrew, and I think about our time together over the years, is how you really live what you're talking about. I know that you're an accomplished singer-songwriter. You have many albums to your credit. You perform regularly, and that's something that's both integrated with the school and something you do on your own. And I know that I've meditated with you. I've sat in your house with you, and we've meditated together. We've had long conversations and walks. We've done strategy together for the school. There was a year when, maybe a couple of years, where I worked with Raj Chawla and you, pro bono, to look at what was the future of oneness. So I've had a chance to kind of intersect with you on all these different levels, and it really strikes me that you are living what you're creating. Um, when you talk about, not most schools do not have the kind of level of intensity or depth or time that is spent on self-exploration, self-discovery. How do you go about creating a curriculum for that? Because you have to occupy these students, hours a day, days a week, weeks a month, months a year, and they have to be doing real work. And so you're at the frontier of building a curriculum. Even in the Montessori space, you're at the frontier. So how do you do that?
It's such a good question. I really appreciate the opportunity to explore that. First of all, let me say, Seth, you have been such an inspiration to me over time. As you mentioned, you were a dad. You and Laura were parents at the school, but way beyond that, you've been an inspiration to me in the sense of how to look at the world and see what how we can respond to make the world a better place through empowering people, empowering organizations, etc. So I want to say thank you to you.
You're right.
It's such a good question because yeah, it comes down to time and space. Okay. And what I mean by that is this: you have to schedule into the curriculum, into the weekly, monthly, annual program time for students to be able to explore the self discovery aspects. Okay. So that means that we start every day, or at least there is time every day where all the students in a given class gather together for what you might call meeting time or circle time. And this is a microcosm of how you build time into the program. So in the meeting time, there might be some moments of mindfulness, of silent reflection. There for the older students, older meaning even starting in, first grade, the students themselves will lead that silent moment. And that could include the ringing of a chime or a bowl or something like that. There might be some little flowers to inspire us, but and then for older students, there may be a reading, some inspiring reading, a poem, for example, that the students have selected, and that becomes a tone setter for the meeting. And then the meeting can go in any number of directions. There could be singing of some songs, some songs of peace, of happiness, of supporting the earth. There could be a mini lesson on a virtue, like whatever the theme is that month. It could be honesty. It could be what courage means. It could be determination, etc. And very often, those meetings will include some form of a practice of acknowledgments or gratitude, which I feel is one of the most important practices.
Mm.
My teacher once said that gratitude is one of the most powerful forces on the planet,
Mm.
and it really gave me pause. So it's something that I practice in my own life, but I try to instill into the school. So building in time, such as the morning meeting, that's not at all the only thing we do, but you get the idea of how you build these things into the curriculum. The way we do field trips and the purpose behind them and where we go on the field trips, whether that be out into nature frequently or whether we're going to some kind of temple or some kind of church or to the synagogue to learn about the different ways that people approach spirituality, or whether we're going to the planetarium. It's all about expanding our awareness of what is possible and how humans pursue this quest of who you want to be in your life. So creating time in the calendar is one thing, and then creating space in the environment, in the classroom environment or the school is another thing, another aspect. So, for example, how is the classroom designed? The design of and this is a very important thing for Maria Montessori. How your classroom is designed is basically an expression of how you view education. So if your classroom is just, totally bare and naked of anything inspiring, it's just bare walls and desks and chairs, and there's a blackboard, which is the way, education's been for decades. That's going to say something about what your viewpoint on education is, and it's also going to say a lot about what the experience of the children are going to be. So, in Montessori classrooms, certainly at Oneness-Family Montessori School, you will see a beautiful environment that stimulates the imagination, that's inspiring to the soul, which includes little peace corners that are adorned, if you will, with all kinds of not a messy sort of array of things, but a few inspiring things. It could be a crystal, or it could be a rock, or a seashell, could be a little Zen sand garden. It could. When I was teaching way back in the day, I loved to put in the peace corner a copy of some sacred texts from around the world. This was kind of for older kids, but it made a big impression on the students to open a Quran and see the Arabic writing, to open the Bhagavad Gita and see Sanskrit, and so on. But the idea is a place where students can go and just be for a few moments or a few minutes, and there's been so many funny stories over time, but one of the funnier ones is, back in the days when I was teaching, more than once a student came up to me and said, "Andrew, you look stressed today. I think you should go into the peace corner for a little while." So, time and space is one way to think about how you're going to build this in, because if you don't intentionally do that, create it in the schedule and create an intentional classroom or school design, then easily these things can be forgotten because we default to ways we were brought up and we went to school. And finally, the culture you build is absolutely crucial, and by that I mean that the teachers are models for what the vision is. And a very wise person, and I don't remember who it was, said, uh, "When you're a teacher, to be a good teacher, you have to remember you are teaching who you are as much as what you know."
Hmm.
You're teaching who you are, and that made such a big impression on me, and I try to pass that on to teachers at my own school and other schools that I work with, that, you are modeling every moment of every day. It's a little bit stressful to think about, but the reality is you are modeling, the kind of person that you want the students to develop into in their own way, which is a person of curiosity, a person of compassion, a person of, connection, a person who has found some measure of life balance, and who has found some measure of joy and happiness and peace. So, I think that is the best way that I could answer your question in the amount of time that we have.
So let's talk a little bit about the state of the school today. So you started it over 35 years ago, almost 40 years ago, and it's gone through a lot of different changes. Certainly, I've seen it go through changes, and I've not been anywhere close to as hands-on as you have been. Um, I'm interested in two things. One is, what about what's going on in the world today? Because we live in a very tumultuous time with egregious activities that are taking place inside our own country, and I'm sure at a Oneness-Family Peace School that the current events would be of premium importance, and I'm curious how you help the students deal with that. And secondly, what's the literal state of the school? Like, where are you at with fundraising, with growth, with spreading? You talked about multiple generations coming back and infusing their energy in the school. How are you doing with growing the school? I know that I participated in the high school experiments, which are ongoing, to extend the school. Please tell us about all this.
Yes, thank you. Very timely question. I've spent a lot of time in deep thought about the state of the world and the state of our country and what it means regarding education and what it means regarding what we're trying to do at the school. And we're not changing anything that we've built, but it's time to think about how we can do it even more boldly and even more thoughtfully than before, because the world is facing multiple crises, and some people use the term polycrisis because there's so many things, right? From the advent of AI and what that's going to do and is doing, to the climate crisis, to the political polarization, the staggering wealth, disparity, the kind of staggering growth of the billionaire class and the power that they are gaining. So it's a time to really think about what it means to empower students in this context. And so we've taken a hard look at especially the high school curriculum and how we can intentionally work with those older students to prepare them to be able to navigate this world. And so we are engaged in a couple of exciting endeavors. We partnered with Duke University with the Keenan Institute, uh, uh, folks like John Buin and Kendall Surface, who are helping us to create a course for 11th and 12th graders, not just at our school, but anywhere around the history of capitalism. And it's based upon an outstanding podcast from John Buin. His podcast is called Scene on Radio, SCENE. It's a terrific podcast with 12 seasons, I believe, and there's one season dedicated to this topic. And the reason we chose that topic is that we want to empower our students to understand how we got to where we are in America today, all the pathways that we've navigated to that have kind of contributed to our society today in terms of our democracy, in terms of our approach, our economic system, and to look at what the current situation is in regard to those things, and what might be on the horizon for how we might be able to think differently about capital, about investment, about philanthropy, about community. Secondly, with our friend Raj Chavla, we are exploring a parallel course called Being Human, which is also for 11th and 12th graders and also for anyone who wants to participate. And that is more focused specifically on what does it mean to be human in the age that we're in? How do we retain our humanness? There's so many pressures on us. What does it even mean to be human? And where is the boundary between human and non-human, or let's say human and machine? And so in that course, we're really inviting students to pause and explore more deeply some of the underpinnings of assumptions that we carry in around with us all the time that are kind of byproducts of our modern mindset, let's say. And those assumptions include that we're always inherently separate from each other, and that we always have to be in competition with one another. That the individual is the most important thing, and how did we get here with this hyper individualism? And where is the balance between the individual and the community, right? Between the rights of the individual and what in the Constitution they call the common good. So these are some questions that we're exploring, and we realized in order to do this really well, we should create a parallel exploration for adults. That meaning parents and educators and leaders, and so that's what we're doing. And so this is part of an effort on in terms of our upper grades to really lean into preparing the students to be able to intentionally, consciously make choices that are going to find their own balance between happiness and success as they move forward. And it's an exciting endeavor, and we found some really great partners. Um, your second question is about where we're at in terms of practically and the history of the school. It's also an exciting time. I mean, it's a challenging time, to be frank, for any independent school, whether that means K through 12 or higher ed colleges. There are many constraints right now on us all, and those constraints are largely economic, but they're also cultural in the sense that because it's such a stressful time, then as we said earlier in our talk, Seth, the idea or the dedication to self discovery and those kinds of endeavors, those kinds of aspects of learning, tend to be shunted aside because people are agitated and they want to make sure that they have the skills necessary to be successful in this incredibly changing world. So there are economic constraints from every angle, whether that be inflation, whether that be just families trying to make ends meet, paying the mortgage and saving for retirement, et cetera. And then you get private school to pay for. But also there's pressure from people losing their jobs, especially here in the Washington area. All that to say that it's a pivotal time for schools like Oneness-Family, Montessori School. And so what we've decided to do is to reach out with a major push to our alumni students, alumni families, and our partners all around the world to create an endowment for the school that will allow the school to sustain itself and to thrive long into the future. And I'm very excited about that. I've already spoken to some of our alumni students and families, as well as some of our partners. And the time is right for that, and I think that that will allow us to continue to lean in, to manifest the vision of the school for the next 25, 50 years, and to be able to do so despite the kind of vicissitudes, right, of the world situation, and be able to retain what's really unique and pure and beautiful about the school for a long time to come.
Beautiful. And the school is in Bethesda, Maryland.
It's actually technically Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Chase, thank you.
And yeah, and that's the lower campus, where we serve students 2 years old through eighth grade. And then our high school is out in Kensington, Maryland.
Got it. And if somebody is interested, how can they contact you?
Right. Well, just Google oneness-family.org, and you can come to our website and learn a lot there, and then our. You can contact me if you'd like. I'd be happy to talk further with friends of yours, Seth, to meet like-minded folks. That's one of my favorite things to do, and whether that be colleagues or new friends. We love to have visitors. We love to show you the school and to show all these ideas kind of in action, and we can introduce you to some other members of our team as well. And the students themselves love visitors, so they'll come up to you and introduce themselves and tell you what they're working on. They might even give you a hug. I don't know whether you're a hugger or not. Uh, so we welcome you to come and visit. Yeah, onenessfamily.org.
And so just as we close this time together, so the school is part of your manifestation, but you also are involved in other things. I talked earlier about your singing, songwriting, and you're a visionary. Where do you see your role going out over the next, in the near term? Where do you see yourself going?
Right. So I've been very fortunate in the sense that having built the school is a model of Montessori in action, and it's inspired a lot of other, I dare say, a lot of other educators, and so that has led to me being able to share what I've learned at conferences. So I'll be, for example, a keynote speaker out in Utah next week at the Utah Montessori Council Conference. As you mentioned, I'm also a songwriter and a performing artist, and I've found a way to blend my interest in art together with my expertise in education. So at the Utah conference, for example, while I'm doing a keynote, I'll also be singing a couple of my songs. I've written about 200 songs or so, many children's songs, but songs for adults. And I'm working on 2 books right now as well. So I'm really grateful that I have the time at this stage of my career to be able to explore those things, to share my expertise, to consult with schools, help school leaders, and to connect. I really, really enjoy connecting with other educators and leaders. So that's uh, that's kind of what I'm up to these days.
So if another educator or leader who's listening to this wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you reach out, just Andrew at onenessfamily.org. Very simple, yeah, and I'm pretty easy to find, and I try to be responsive to folks that are interested in connecting, whether that's educationally or whether that's in terms of the vision, or whether you are interested in perhaps collaborating with us or partnering with us as we move ahead into the future. Maybe you want to start a school somewhere where you are. I've helped people to do that. But whatever your interest, or if you just want to collaborate musically as well, I love that. So Andrew at onenessfamily.org.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Seth. See you soon.